Let's see. College football, not going a lot going on. Talk about the bowl games about to start as we are in this Christmas week. COVID is, and that's where COVID could play an issue and affect teams. We've seen a lot of colleges, but it's not just COVID. They've got guys that are opting out too. And I don't know what's worse on a team, COVID or a player or two or three opting out to not play because of the NFL draft or whatever the case may be.
Well, I think COVID's worse because it's contagious.
Well, it's worse as it says. I mean, I don't know how
not quite as much.
Yeah.
But you know, I think this what we saw with Kenny Pickett, the Pitt quarterback, and the Michigan State running back. I'm sure you remember his name, Kevin. I can't remember. Yeah, I mean, those guys both pulling out of the Peach Bowl, which is a pretty high-level bowl. I think it's a clear indication that the college football postseason is broken, and that and again, I'm not throwing this just on them, because let's not forget that Brian Kelly changed jobs in the middle of the college football postseason, or in advance of the college football postseason. Would Brian Kelly have taken the LSU job when he did if we had an expanded 12-team playoff and Notre Dame were more or less assured of being a part of it? Would he have been able to? Would Notre Dame have allowed him to, in a sense, because he does have a contract? I mean, there are lots of things that are wrong about the college football postseason and that would be repaired if you had an expanded playoff. And whether it's 8 teams or 12 teams, it's time that we get there, and we get there with automatic qualification. And we, remember Kenny Pickett played the ACC championship. So if Pitt had won that game and qualified automatically for the postseason, for the national tournament, a chance to win a national championship, there is no way he would not play, because he'd already established his NFL status as a draft pick before the ACC championship. But he played because it was a real championship. But the Peach Bowl is just a game. And a game he doesn't need to play in, that he could get injured in. I believe that the injury risk is overstated in a game like that. I don't criticize someone for not playing, but I do think that a lot of the media can stop telling people they're fools for playing. You play because you want to play, and so those who do play, I think is the right thing to do. But for those who don't play, I can't criticize them, because the playoff system put them, the college football postseason put them in this position to make these decisions. Do I play in this game that doesn't really add up to anything, or do I protect myself and my draft status and all the rest by not competing?
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. It's the post game. Other than the college football playoffs, it's kind of broken, like Mike said. It's just not what it was, and it's not going to be that. But I kind of knew that when we started making all these changes with college athletics. College sports is just not going to be what it was, period, in the past, because it's changed. Now they're getting paid. I know that later on we'll talk about Xavier Johnson being booed, which I agree with. It's not cool to boo college kids, but it used to be because people would say they're not getting paid. Well, they're getting paid now. So do they, when they don't deliver or whatever? I mean, certain people could say, hey, I gave towards NIL. I deserve the right to boo or whatever. I don't know, but it's a bad deal.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett will miss out on that bowl swag. You know what I mean? Like those bags that they give those, you know what I mean? Maybe a bag of peaches or something like that, or, whatever. No, but yeah, I think back to that. Who was that tight end from Michigan, Jake Butt, that blew out his knee, right? And he was going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick.
Right.
I think that scared a lot of people, even though, injury risk is minimal and it can happen anywhere. But to happen in that kind of a game when you have an NFL future, I think that's what people are scared of.
Yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, who spent Sunday afternoon tearing the Steelers' poor offensive line apart, blew his knee out in training for the draft. I believe he played in his bowl game. I believe he played for Mississippi State. He played in his bowl game and then tore his knee up in training for the draft. So it can happen anytime. It does scare people when they see things like there was a Notre Dame player. I think he was a tight end who played against Ohio State in a bowl game about 3, 4, 5 years ago and blew his knee up. And it happens. And when it happens on TV, it does scare people. I don't think the risk is all that much greater to play in that game than it is to train for the draft or to really just about anything. You know, you do carry some risk. But I understand why those who don't play because you also carry the risk of underperforming.
I just think the point being, though, you know, training for the draft is one thing. It serves a purpose. You know, playing in a meaningless game is another thing. You know, that's what I mean. I think that's the whole point of it. It's like, why would you put yourself at risk for a game where, you know, you'll get some bull swag and, you know, they can maybe celebrate the win. But, you know, the flip side of it is you're abandoning your teammates, right? That's kind of, you know, and it's a team game. You know, Mike Leach has been very vocal about that. But, you know.
I think that's why, you know, for a Pickett, somebody like that, I mean, hey, he took them to the mountaintop. They won an ACC championship. They've never won a conference championship at Pitt, I don't think, before, because they weren't in you know, they were only in the Big East for, you know, Big East football for what, 15 years or whatever. They might have won one somewhere along the way. I'm not sure they did. If they won one, it's only been one. So he takes them to an ACC championship and then he leaves. You know, I think you can say, hey, I did everything I could. And so if you want to be with your teammates and you want to play that game, great. But if you feel that it has more downside than upside, then I totally understand that. I just don't like when media members more or less campaign for players not to play. Call it, you know, say it's foolish to play. Look, it's never foolish to compete. That's what you're out there for. But if you feel the risk reward is out of balance, I totally get it.
Yeah, and I don't think they should be weighing in, period. It's none of their business. It's not their I'm as opinionated as anybody, but that's on them. That's their decision.
Personal
that's their
decision.
Dealing with their team, as Kevin mentioned. There's so many things that goes in. That's them, man. They have put that work in. That's not something that I mean, not that I don't have an opinion about it, but it's not to the point to where I'm like, you should do this and you should do that. That's crap.